Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. If you're listening in on your computer's speaker system, that's set by default. If you'd prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You'll have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing in your questions into the questions pane of the control panel today. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Recorded version of this webinar will be available. You'll receive an email after today's presentation with a link to replay the webinar. For those of you just joining us, welcome to today's webinar, Understanding the Cloud Shared Responsibility Model. Here's today's agenda. I'm going to provide a brief introduction to Brookey and Company. My co-presenter today is Dan Mannion, Vice President, Global Alliances and Partners at Armor Defense. Dan will be providing a brief introduction to Armor Defense and discuss today's topic, the Cloud Shared Responsibility Model, as well as some security considerations. We'll conclude with a question and answer period. Again, please submit text questions by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel, and we'll collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. So again, I'm Michael Brookey, founder of Brookey and Company. After nearly 30 years of experience, where roughly half of that was in management consulting and information technology, I decided to form our company. After seeing how the industry works for a decade and a half, we founded our company on simple core values: integrity, customer focus, and proven methods and tools. Our IT practice focuses in two areas. The first is cloud strategy services, where we provide cloud strategy and roadmap planning, solution architecture, and migration planning. We offer these services to help companies manage their risks associated with compliance and regulatory requirements, data security, cloud monitoring, and effective capital utilization. Our second area of IT focus is cybersecurity services and solutions. Our cybersecurity services include a broad range of services that include data breach, incident investigation and response, vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, critical controls assessment and compliance testing, cybersecurity operations, and cyber business risk assessments. We partnered with a company that's molded security frameworks around complex operations of some of the largest organizations in North America. Since 2005, they've aided in the recovery of 6 of the top 10 largest North American security breaches affecting hundreds of millions of individuals. Our cybersecurity solutions include our alliance with Armor Defense. Brookey and Company has been an Armor Guardian partner since January of this year, and we're excited to be able to offer Armor Anywhere and Armor Complete to our clients. I'd now like to introduce Dan Mannion, Global Vice President of Alliances and Partners at Armor Defense. Dan's been with Armor since January of 2016, and before joining Armor, Dan was an executive with Microsoft Corporation. Dan, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody today, and very excited about the partnership with Brookey and Company. Hopefully maybe we can do this at some point in the wonderful HQ area of San Diego, California. Excited to come visit you and the customers there. So we're going to go through a high-level overview of the shared responsibility model, and we're going to talk about some of the challenges that poses for our customers, and then some of the things that our customers can do in order to address those challenges. And then we'll summarize by walking through some of the security considerations and some of the macro trends that we're seeing in the security market that make this shared responsibility topic so important for our customers today. Just as a quick background on the Armor organization, we've been in business since 2010, have over 1,200 customers across 45 countries that we're securing very high security and sensitive data workloads today. For the top 10 healthcare IT companies, we work with a number of organizations that do outsourced payment platforms and run over $200 billion worth of secure payment transactions every single month through our data centers around the world. We're very focused on compliant industries like healthcare, financial services, any organizations that have to manage retail credit card data, like hospitality, as well as e-commerce and brick-and-mortar retailers. And in fact, we've actually had quite a lot of success with other security companies in the market. A number of them, including HP and RSA and other security companies who understand how challenging it is to build and manage a secure posture, actually bring their most critical assets to Armor to secure. So with that, why don't we jump in and talk about the shared responsibility model and what that means for our customers. So at the end of the day, there is a massive amount of interest from customers, large and small, to figure out how to take advantage of the public cloud platforms that are out there in the market today. From Azure to Microsoft's Azure Cloud, AWS, even Google Cloud now getting into the mix. IBM's got some offerings out there as well. There are a number of organizations that are trying to figure out how to take advantage of these clouds and get out of the data center management business. And we actually encourage our customers to take advantage of those public cloud infrastructures as much as they can. Because if you actually go and dig into the data center security, some of the native services that they offer, they've made it very easy for you to do security at that scale much more cost effectively than you can do in your own data centers today. In fact, IDC released a report that starts to detail out some of those things that you can do in the public cloud much more cost effectively than you can do in your own environment. Things such as automated logging and monitoring, making it easier to encrypt your data. They also have marketplaces of tools vendors that you can procure and deploy into your environment as well if you choose to manage that secure posture yourself. But all public cloud vendors do have this concept of the shared responsibility model. And that shared responsibility model states what the public cloud vendor will be doing in order to ensure your security, but also what activities and resources you still need to be focused on in order to move securely into the cloud. So this is a common visual that you will see from some of the public cloud vendors. And you can see in the green, or the teal, it shows very specifically what are the things that that public cloud vendor is going to manage. From an infrastructure as a service perspective, you're looking at networking, storage, servers, and virtualization of that cloud platform. But the customer is still 100% responsible for managing that OS, the middleware, the runtime, data and applications that run on that environment, including the network ports that you're going to open up from the public internet in order to access that environment in the public cloud data center. If you're actually going to re-architect your applications or architect them from scratch to take advantage of higher level platform as a service or PaaS services in the public cloud, then yes, you will be able to turn more management over to that public cloud vendor. But there's still a number of things that you're going to have to do around applications and data, as well as your own identity management and role-based access that you'll still have to secure and focus on doing appropriately. Now this looks fairly simple, but what we decided to do was provide a security version of that chart, essentially laying out very specifically, if you wanted to move to the cloud and do it in a very secure posture, what requirements and what boxes would you still have to check in order to be secure in the cloud. As you can see, it gets a little bit more complicated when you talk about it from a security perspective, not just an infrastructure management perspective. The data center providers or the cloud providers are still taking care of physical security of the data centers, the networks between the data centers, storage, databases, and the compute. But all of the things that you would want to do, whether you're securing an environment in the public cloud or securing an environment in your own environment, are still 100% your responsibility. So starting at the infrastructure level with log and event monitoring, file integrity monitoring, patch monitoring, making sure your OS, your operating systems are up to patch. It's an incredibly laborious task, but an incredibly important task, as evidenced by the WannaCry virus that recently had a global spread and hit over 240,000 systems in 124 countries just in the last few weeks. So if you go for all the way up the stack, you'll find that there is a lot that you're still responsible for. And if you're not capable of securing that effectively and responsibly, you're leaving yourself open to threat actors breaching your systems. In fact, Gartner has actually stated that over 95% of cloud security failures through the next 3 years will be the customer's fault because of the complexity of that chart that we just showed, as well as even if you have a strong security posture today in your own data center and you've got skilled cybersecurity professionals running a security operations team 24/7, those teams have to relearn how to secure your applications in the cloud because they don't have the same level of control, They don't have the same level of network access. And frankly, just the way that you do things in the cloud is going to be different. There's a definitive learning curve there. So incredibly important topic for you to make sure you walk away and address and consider the following. Number one, what would the impact of your business be if you were not able to secure that cloud environment appropriately? What is the cost of doing that security? And what kind of talent considerations do you have to think about? Is there reskilling that you have to do? Do you have to hire new muscle? Do you have to work directly with third parties in order to build this new muscle? It is not as simple as moving your application to the cloud and offloading some of the management to that cloud provider. There's a ton of different security considerations that you now have to think about. Now, usually at this part of the presentation, we start getting people thinking, well, I've heard that the cloud vendors say their clouds are secure. Do I really need to worry about this? And the answer is most definitively yes. At the end of the day, the number of threat actors that are out there, their level of expertise, the sophistication of the malware and the tools that they're using, these things are all going up and to the right. And here are just some example statistics of what we're seeing in the market today. So just this year, there's already been 3.2 million record breaches in the US alone. There's been over 910 billion with a B, record breaches over the last 10 years. We're seeing a dramatic increase in the number of attempted and successful hacks, over 40% year over year. And the average cost of a data breach now is $4 million. And we're seeing that actually increase because of the level of sophistication and understanding of how these threat actors are able to monetize the information that they've stolen. So whether you're in healthcare or whether you're in transportation, it's really good to truly understand what is the cost of that breach. If you were to lose a patient information record, if you were to lose credit card data, at the end of the day, what is the cost from a fines perspective, from a lost business perspective, and then from a brand damage perspective, and you'll start to really realize that is not something that you can take lightly. And something that we've heard industry proponents talk about is, even though you're moving to the public cloud, and yes, the platform that is the public cloud is more secure, all of the IP addresses of the public cloud are actually published. So every threat actor on the planet knows what the IP addresses are of those public cloud vendors, and their automated scanning tools are looking for known vulnerabilities in your applications, in your networks, whether or not one of your developers has exposed the database to the public internet. There's all kinds of challenges that are still found in those public cloud platforms. Now, at the end of the day, most systems will get infected at some point. There is no perfect security posture. Armory, a 24/7 managed security business that's been learning how to do this against the best threat actors on the planet for the last 7 years. Every single month, we still find customers that have infections on a server. That means that a threat actor actually landed on that server, and that threat actor is now trying to figure out where the valuable data is. The good news is, for Armor customers, we actually are capable of identifying that threat and remediating that threat within 24 hours or less. In fact, our standard dwell time, which is the industry term for how long a threat actor is wandering around your environment before you're able to identify and remediate that threat actor, the standard dwell time at Armor is about 23 hours. We actually have an SLA for 2 days. And the average company that's not an Armor customer, their dwell time average is running at 146 days right now. It only takes 6 to 7 days for a threat actor to wander around your server, find that valuable information, and start to exfiltrate that information out of your environment, which is now called a breach. So if you're running at the industry average, God forbid you're running at worse the industry average, but the industry average means you pretty much have guaranteed that you're going to be breached. And unfortunately, the cybersecurity industry is not doing you any favors today. There are some macro trends that unfortunately are affecting us all and are going to make it even more difficult for each company to try to solve this problem on their own. The first macro trend is the talent shortage. The cybersecurity workforce is expected to reach a shortage of 1.5 million professionals globally. Today in the United States, we already see a talent shortage of over 250,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs every year. It's also becoming incredibly more expensive. Obviously, supply and demand economics dictate that when there's a shortage of supply in terms of talent, it's going to get more costly to hire and retain that talent. So we see that growing 20% year over year. And then finally, even if you have a great security operations center team and you have the talent on board and you're able to keep that talent, you're still behind the 8 ball in terms of cloud security. It's a new muscle. When we get brought into Fortune 500 companies to help them with securing their Azure or their AWS environments, the reason we're brought in is we often hear from them, hey, we thought we could just replicate what we do in our own environment, what we've worked so hard to do, and manage and monitor in our own environment, and we can't. The public cloud vendors won't allow us to replicate that. They won't give us the same network access. We don't even have the same tooling available to us in the public cloud, and so you have to build a new muscle to try to figure out how to do that. And then lastly, the security industry itself is failing us. If you look into the market today, there are over 5,000 security tools vendors. They are not integrated. They are not working together the way the threat actors are working together in order to deliver security outcomes for you, the customer. The other option you have is to go to the MSSP market, the Managed Security Services market, which is very similar to the IT outsourcing market of the last decade. These companies will come in and they'll manage your firewall on behalf of you. They'll manage your Trend Micro deep security platform on your behalf. But unfortunately, instead of delivering security outcomes, all they're doing is they're turning your OpEx and your CapEx investment into an OpEx investment and just alerting you when they think that the security tools are saying that there's a problem. At the end of the day, you still haven't improved your security posture. And then finally, we're all adhering to these compliance frameworks, whether they be HIPAA or HITRUST or PCI or any of the other frameworks that you might be held accountable to, and those frameworks unfortunately don't guarantee your security. They're compliance checkboxes. In fact, we've had customers that have come to us 3 weeks after they were achieving, say, a HITRUST or a PCI compliance, and explaining to us that they had already been breached. So hopefully we've been able to share with you just in these last few minutes a little bit about the trend that we're seeing in the market where companies really want to take advantage of that public cloud and all the benefits that it can provide. The shared responsibility model and how important it is to understand what level of responsibilities that you have and what is that going to mean in your organization in terms of your talent, in terms of the cost, and in terms of the effectiveness of addressing that shared responsibility. And hopefully you've got a better sense now of the different types of unfortunate trends that you're facing in order to make this even more exacerbated on your behalf. So that's why we're so excited to be in market today with partners like Brookey and Company. And Mike, why don't I bring you back in and we can talk about some key takeaways people can start thinking about.
Thanks, Dan. Today we have 7 takeaways for the audience. I'll address planning the move to the cloud, workload, business transformation, and planning the overall cloud journey. And Dan will address the shared responsibility model, cost-benefit analysis, and security and compliance. First key takeaway for our audience today, think about why you're moving to the cloud and where are you in the journey. That's really the first question business leaders need to be asking themselves. A lot of companies have rushed to the cloud to take advantage of the cost savings. Some have avoided moving to the cloud just because of security concerns. Basically, reasons not moving also include not knowing where to even begin, specifically with security concerns about moving to the cloud. So one of the things we like to advise our clients is that having a cloud strategy and a roadmap in place basically helps companies chart their journey to the cloud, whether they're just beginning or have already started and are part of the way through. We like to emphasize, have a strategy, have a roadmap that you can work from, and we also like to emphasize that as an ongoing activity, not something that you'll just do once. It requires continuous management. Next takeaway, commitment to your next step. Which workloads will you start with on the journey to the cloud? Again, this is a key takeaway in that you really need to understand what you're committing to and what those next steps are going to be to make sure that you're successful, whether your workloads are built in the cloud or it is an application or storage requirement that's going to be migrated to the cloud. One of the key takeaways that we like to talk to our clients about here in identifying those workloads is analysis of the total cost of moving to the cloud. There's always the initial cost for compute, storage, network use, those types of things, but what's often missed at looking at the cost of moving to the cloud is the natural organic growth of data. A lot of times there will be functional changes that are demanded by the users of the applications, and just basic normal changes that developers are going to make as they add new services and maintaining the applications. So we like to caution our clients that commit to those next steps, understand which workloads you're going to start with on the journey, but make sure that you've done a complete total cost of ownership assessment so there's no hidden surprises downstream. As far as the next takeaway, what are your next steps to transform your business and technology relationship into a secure cloud and ready state? This is a truly important takeaway, we believe. Many companies are spooling up cloud instances. They're adding cloud-based applications that store sensitive data. There's shadow IT, where certain elements within the business are authorized just with a credit card to purchase cloud services. And that poses a true threat to the secure cloud-ready state of a business. With that autonomy in place, we like to focus on the importance of a more holistic approach to securing the entire enterprise, taking into consideration, Dan, the constant threat of cybercrime and that type of activity that you just spoke of. It's important to have that enterprise look at your security posture, and taking the first steps to do that is important, and keeping in mind that it's an organizational mindset that has to be communicated across the company, and that as well is a continuous process. Everyone needs to remain vigilant. And this is especially important, we believe, for companies that have compliance requirements like HIPAA or PCI that Dan spoke of earlier. And in particular, global companies with the upcoming GDPR regulations in the EU, where there's some hefty fines associated without having proper security in place. So again, a key takeaway there for businesses for sure. And the next one, having a multi-year plan, making sure you understand the implications of hybrid. A lot of firms have already made the move partially to cloud, but they're still maintaining a mixture of applications and storage that are hosted or in data centers. And we believe that having, again, going back to a time phase roadmap for implementation, that's critically important to understanding the operational security implications of making that move. There's probably not a lot of enterprises out there that have made that 100% jump to the cloud. There are a few, but we believe that the continued need to maintain a hybrid approach is going to last for some number of years. And again, goes back to having a strategic roadmap, having a plan in place, identifying the legacy applications that you may not be able to move for technology reasons for months or perhaps years, and continue to manage that process. So Dan, I'll turn it back to you to address the shared responsibility model again.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Those are terrific. So on the topic of the shared responsibility model and how you address it, I give this talk in a number of different events around the country and actually now around the world. Just came back from London last week, and one of the opportunities I always take advantage of is to ask the audience, hey, how many of you are actually moving workloads into the cloud or already have existing workloads in the cloud? And invariably, no matter whether it's 100 people or 1,000 people, 2/3 of the room is going to raise their hand. So this journey is happening. The challenge that poses then comes with the second question, which is when I ask, how many of you, keep your hands up, how many of you actually understand what the shared responsibility model means? And all but maybe 3% of the room will keep their hands up. And so while you may be in an organization or a leader of an organization today that is on the journey to cloud adoption, it's incredibly important that you sit down with your teams and make sure that they're clear about their strategy on how they're going to address that shared responsibility model. Completing a detailed cost-benefit analysis to ensure you design new programs and policies to prevent unsecured cloud sprawl. There's two examples we have of this. One is from our own organization. We actually do a lot of development in AWS today. And as a result, our VP of Engineering has even shared with us that he will be surprised sometimes by the bill that he gets for our AWS usage. When he investigates what's going on, he finds often that he's had development managers in their team spin up environments or do a bunch of testing in a new environment. And unfortunately, because they don't have the formal programs and processes in place, or maybe it was a new dev team and they're not adhering to our processes, they might leave that environment up for the entire month and not actually spin it down. And so even an organization that's doing this for a living, we still get surprised by some of the cost models that happen when you move to the cloud. And in fact, we had a customer come to us that had been breached in one of the public clouds, and they found, very strangely, a phantom VM in their environment that was actually sending intellectual property to an IP address in China. And the only way they caught this was because the CFO had reviewed one of the AWS bills and was surprised at their bandwidth charges. Why are our bandwidth charges so high? Well, when they investigated with the team, what they realized is you actually don't get charged to move data into the cloud, but you do get charged to move data out of the cloud. And they were finding that this IP that was being moved out was the reason why their bill had spiked so high, and it was the only way they caught that they had been breached. And then finally, security and the compliance in the cloud is different. Now might be the time to outsource. Find a partner. At the end of the day, this is really hard. There is a talent shortage out in the industry. Find a partner who's committed to security outcomes, that's willing to work with you on this journey, that wants to be that long-term partner on A, your strategy, and then B, ensuring that you have that secure posture, and don't try to go it alone. These threat actors out there are getting stronger. They're getting more networked. We're finding them specializing. It's becoming a real challenge for all businesses out there. And as Mike cited, the GDPR regulations, government organizations around the world are going to put heftier fines and more challenging constraints on our businesses if we don't do it ourselves. So hopefully we can find some ways to partner together with Brookey and Company and a lot of you on the webinar today, and hopefully take you into a secure posture so that you can take advantage of that cloud. With that, Mike, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks very much. So we're now going to begin answering the questions that we've received during our presentation today. And as a reminder to our participants, you can still submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel.
Okay, let's begin with our first question. I'd be interested in hearing more about applications as a service. Many customers use AWS for more than just platforms and storage. For example, AWS just launched Amazon Connect as a call center service offering. How do these value-added services affect the security split in terms of shared responsibilities? Also, wouldn't Amazon be undertaking much more of those responsibilities?
Interesting. I'm not familiar with the Amazon call center offering. I am aware of the Amazon Managed Services offering, but that's a new one for me. I'm not sure if you have any insight into that, Mike.
Actually, yes. Amazon Connect is a fairly new cloud-based contact center solution that Amazon released in the March timeframe of this year. If you look at the documentation, it basically says that it resides in an instance, and basically S3 buckets are created to store calls. The administrator has the option to encrypt or not encrypt the calls as they come in. So as it pertains to the question that's been asked, I think that there's still some shared responsibility as far as user administration decisions, whether or not to encrypt phone calls. You know, obviously a concern if there's sensitive information involved. So Dan, I think we'll want to keep an eye on this as Amazon Connect goes forward to see what solution will best protect the customers.
Agreed. They did release Amazon Managed Services for the Global 2000 segment of the market, and they do not address the shared responsibility model with those offerings today.
Okay, great. Next question relates to just initial steps that one of our customers might take, Dan, as far as security monitoring, similar to the types of services that Armor Defense provides. So perhaps talk a little bit about how Armor Complete and Armor Anywhere may be applied within a customer's environment.
Yeah, that's a great question. So today we have two offerings in market. One is Armor Complete, which is a hosted, highly secure virtual private cloud offering hosted out of 5 data centers around the world. And that's really designed architecturally for applications that don't make sense to take advantage of the public cloud infrastructure. So things like payments platforms, EMR systems with patient data, the types of applications that don't need the ability to horizontally scale, that aren't going to get peak demand, in tax time or holiday time from a retail perspective, are some great examples. That's a very appropriate secure cloud infrastructure for those types of applications. And then we also have Armor Anywhere, which can secure literally customer environments anywhere, as the name implies. And that's what we use in Azure, AWS, et cetera. The real advantage that our customers and our partners, frankly, love about working with these two offerings is they're tied together with a single pane of glass called Armor Management Portal. What Armor Management Portal allows you to do is see the security of your compute infrastructure in any environment that Armor is securing you in. So whether it's in an Armor data center, an Amazon data center, your own data center, what have you, you have that single pane of glass where all of the alerting, all of the tickets, and all the information and analytics about your environment is in one place. And we also are very API driven, so we're able to actually export that data on a customer's behalf, or we're able to export that to a partner like an MSP who's doing that on behalf of the customer, so that they can also see and retain that data in other systems if they like.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan.
You bet.
We've got one more question here. I'll paraphrase, but basically the question pertains to a comment you made earlier about how IP addresses are public and continually scanned by the bad guys, basically. The question pertains to, is there anything customers can do to protect themselves under those types of circumstances where you're pretty much scanned as soon as you're operational?
They could try to replicate some intellectual property that Armor's built, or they could partner with Brookey and Armor and have that service deployed for them. So we actually have a solution that we have in front of our own data centers today. It's currently in beta. Will probably be out in the Q4 timeframe of this year, 2017, and that is our IP reputation management platform. And essentially what we've done is we are one of the few firms on the planet that will actually shape traffic on behalf of our customers and actively block known bad IP addresses. So these are IP addresses where it's been confirmed by threat intel, by security firms from around the world, that attacks are being launched from the servers at these IP addresses. So we decided to block them. Don't even let that kind of traffic reach our customers. And we actually have 40 million of these known bad IPs that we update every 4 hours. We update that block list every 4 hours, so that we're constantly being vigilant and preventing threat actors from even being able to see one of our customer applications, much less try to expose the vulnerability in it.
Okay, great. Well, that seems to wrap up the questions from the audience today.
Great questions.
So, with that, I think what we'll do is we'll call this a wrap. So, Dan, thank you so much for presenting today, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, Understanding the Cloud Shared Responsibility Model. If you have any other questions, please contact us at the emails that are on your screen. Once you leave today's webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view the recording of today's webinar. On behalf of Brookey and Company and Armor, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.